Hello there, it's DRT Nubo, and I'm here to bring you episode 3 of Old School Game Sessions. And today we're going to be looking at a very, very old school game. As you can see here, Ultima 1, The First Age of Darkness. Now, Ultima 1 isn't a game which was a really big part of my childhood at all. It was well outdated. In fact, I was born in 84, so I wasn't even born when this came out. But it's part of the Ultima series, which is a huge, huge part of my life. So I wanted to sort of go back right to the start and look at where it all began. So the game is a adventure role-playing game. It has a lot of the aspects of D&D. As you can see here, I'm giving my character a name. I've chosen a race, a sex, a class. I've set some of my stats. So I've generated this character, and then you enter the game, and the game starts. So I just start off with the story. It's quite a cool story, and it's part of a trilogy called The Age of Darkness. So the story for this game is that there's this world, another world, a magical world called Caesarea. I think that's how you pronounce it. And in this world there is magic, and magic is of course always being used by evil wizards to hurt people and enslave people. And so basically the 8 lords of Caesarea have decreed that magic is outlawed. No one can use magic. But there's one guy, and his name is Mondane the Wizard, and he keeps using magic in secret. And he sort of keeps using magic in secret, and he creates this gem of immortality, which gives him immortality. So he is actually undefeatable. And he sends his hordes of monsters against the realm and enslaves everyone and pretty much screws the entire world. So what this guy called Lord British, who's one of the 8 rulers, does is he creates this thing called a moon gate and summons a hero from another world, and that's where you come in. So in this game you're just referred to as the stranger, and you come from planet Earth, and you've been summoned here to save this world against this guy who's undefeatable. And the only way to do that is to obtain a time machine and go back in time to before Mondane became invincible and kill him then, basically. So that's the story, and that's how it pans out. Okay, so a little bit about the developers. So it was created by a guy called Richard Garriott, who founded a company called Origin Systems, which of course developed the whole Ultima series, including Ultima Online, which was the first really successful, massively multiplayer online game, which I really enjoyed. And he also, Richard Garriott, was also one of the first civilian people ever to travel to space. And he travelled on one of the Russian ships up to the International Space Station. So, also Richard Garriott developed this game. He previously developed a game called a Calibeth, which is sort of a hobby project which turned out to be quite successful. So, based on that success, he was hired to create Ultima 1. Originally, they wanted to call it Ultimate, but there was a board game that already existed called Ultimate, so they decided for copyright reasons to call it Ultima, and then the Ultima series was born. And the original game was just called Ultima. But then, retrospectively, once they created Ultima 2 and Ultima 3, they decided to call it Ultima 1, The First Age of Darkness. So that's where the name comes from. Richard Garriott developed this game with just one other person called Ken W. Arnold, and they created it, of course, back in 1981 for the Apple II. And they did a DOS remake in 1987, which had improved graphics. And here you can see me struggling to get out of this dungeon, this kind of 3D line dungeon. It took me such a long time to get out of here. There we go, I finally figured it out. And there are so many monsters around trying to kill me. Okay, so Ultima 1 was incredibly successful. It sold 50,000 copies, which in 1981, for a computer, no one played games on computers at this time. They had consoles, I guess, or the sort of cartridges and things you plugged into your TV, I think. But they didn't play games on computers, so that was enormously successful. And it paved the way for a lot of games, sort of adventure RPG games that came in the future. One of the things that it did for the first time ever, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, was that as you can see here, the environment, the walls, the world was created in tiles, and that's the first time that a commercial game did that. Before that, they had other ways of doing it. So by the time I got to play this game, it was well out of date. So I've never really played and enjoyed this game. I can respect where it sits in the series, and the fact that there are so many games in the Ultima series really creates this rich history and depth to the games that came later on. But actually playing it is pretty painful, especially after you've played modern games. It's quite a complex game. Basically, you have to go and talk to the 8 lords of this world and do quests for them. You end up going to outer space and fighting spaceships, saving a princess, and then that's when you get the time machine and going back in time and confronting Mondain. It's all pretty complex and pretty hard to get your head around. So I don't really rate the game from a modern perspective at all. But I'm so glad that it was made and all the good stuff that came after it. So that's basically what I wanted to say about the game. But just before I go, I just wanted to say the reason I've been so long at getting this episode out is my wife and I have just had our first child, a beautiful baby girl named Scarlet, and we're just sort of getting used to that. And also, I haven't got my brand new microphone yet, but I will be getting it really soon, and I look forward to bringing you another episode in the near future. See you soon.